Homer, when Scott first took the Baylor job, obviously that was probably a tough decision on the outside looking in because of the scandal. What were those conversations like? When he called you to discuss that, he was an assistant at Val. Well, he was the head coach at Valpo, right? You had just stepped down, right? So he had 1 year as the head coach. But what was that conversation like about the Baylor job?
One of questioning and one of excitement. Excitement because what a great time to go into the program, because it's as down, as low as it can get. The situation that he was going, at least in my lifetime, I've never seen such a difficult situation. So the great thing actually is there's only one way to go, and that's upward. And so that's what was really attractive to Scott about that. The big thing was all the question marks. Would they give him an opportunity to stay and work through all of the probations, all of the penalties that the NCAA was going to put on the men's basketball program at Baylor? So that was the heavy work. And what was wonderful, the school was really good, the administration, that he signed a contract, but they also added for every year that the school was on probation, he got another year. So he ended up with almost a 10-year contract, which gave him the chance to really rebuild the program. Because the first few years, he had half a season to play. He had half the number of scholarships. He was really handcuffed into what he could do. But because of the contract, it allowed him to stay there, to be able to finally get the probations over and the penalties over, and then build his own program, which the rest is history.
I'm curious. He's had a shift. Like early on, he relied pretty heavily on freshmen. Obviously he needed to. The Curtis Geralds, Kevin Rogers, Henry Dugats of the world. But then he made a shift where he's, this get old, stay old philosophy has really been a staple of the program. They've done very well with transfers. Were there conversations about that along the way? Was there some frustration with the inconsistency that freshmen often bring? I just would love to hear some insight into his shift and how he's transformed the program to one that's very consistent today.
Well, great knowledge of the history with what he started with, and he recruited the freshmen. And as you and I know, that fourth and fifth year, you're much better than that first year or second year, unless you get the one and done type of players. And so he really adapted well, he and his staff. And I think actually Scott would be one of the first to acknowledge the staff that he has been really good to work with. Tang has been with him for the 18 years. And that's incredible for two of them to work together closely and be able to adjust as time went on. And then with Alvin Brooks and John Dankus, the four of them really work well together. And I think and Scott's marvelous at evaluating a loss. Why did we lose? Evaluating on a win. What did we do well? What do we have to get better at? And recruiting is one of those topics. And so you go through, and all of a sudden, when the transfer rules started to change, that became a door opener for him to be able to recruit some of these. And again, the experience you get a senior or a fifth year senior, and now they can go and compete against, if not be better than some of these one and done players who are there 1 year and then end up in the NBA. Right. But that the physical growth of a person, the mental growth of the person. So all of these activities help those fourth and fifth year players. And so to answer your question, he was really good to evaluate and to adjust in the recruiting world.
How old was Scott when he took that job? Low 30s, right? I should know that.
32.
Yeah. I think sometimes people forget, we love to watch players get better over their 4 years, but I really enjoyed watching Scott get better as a coach and just whether it's the way he recruits or handles himself in the media or the X's and O's of the game. I remember his first 3 or 4 years there, and this is kind of when they were starting to get competitive again. He took a lot of criticism. Baylor's a talented team, but the coaching is not great. And then it was like with the recruiting. There was something with a brochure and Bobby Knight on it. Everyone was just kind of coming after him. But I know he was under a lot of pressure taking over that situation. And also he was young. What do you remember about that whole time period as he was kind of finding his way?
A very difficult time period because anytime you're questioned, Jason, anytime I'm questioned, we take it personally, it hurts us. And so he worked through that very well and used that knowledge to make himself better. He didn't get frustrated with it. He just kept working at what he was doing. And in that early times, after you had the freshman, then he, to me, I've always known he's a special coach. But what he has done where he took those freshmen that Ashley mentioned, and then you throw in the big. Remember when he went through the 1-1-3 zone? Mm-hmm. And he did that because that's what was most effective for that group of players because of the length that they had in that front line, much like a Syracuse zone that you can go sideline to sideline with the length of the arm span in that. And so you were able to play the three bigs. So he went through that, and then he was able to attract some quick guards. And now, in my opinion, they're, if not the best, one of the top defensive team in the country with the quickness and the tenacity that they play defense. So I think it's been a real compliment to Scott and his staff that they've been able to adjust to the different talent that comes in.
Right. You talk about his positivity. Did that hurt him when he was kind of getting, criticized earlier? Did he just keep that upbeat smile and move right through it? Or,
well, as we all do, you reflect and you get better from it, or you give up. And Scott's he's got that persistency, that determination that he was not going to, and he just kept pushing on and keeping on, and that's why he's been there 18 years and one of the top coaches.